Hi, I'm Dahlia, freelance editor and aspiring author, and today I'm here to do the 4 words writing challenge. So some other author tubers got together and decided to make this crazy challenge a tag. Those crazy people will be listed below. So I want to thank DR Ranger Writing, Kent Sean, Tommy Doolan, and Writing with Lilith for making this tag. And another author tuber and I decided to kind of collaborate a little bit on this tag. Her name is Hannah Palmer and she has a wonderful English accent. It's beautiful, so she's going to be linked below, and please do go check her out. So what Hannah and I decided to do was get 2 words from Danny from DR Ranger Writing and a word each from something we posted in the stories on our Instagram. The 2 words from Danny was distinct and ruby. The word that Hannah got is broccoli, and the word that I got is bubble. I want to thank everyone for submitting a word to me over on Instagram. It was really fun and really challenging to kind of find a word that was going to make this tag more interesting and more challenging than it already was. So the idea with this tag is to find those words, either put it out there on Instagram or collaborate with another author tuber, and then write a short scene up to 1,000 words with those words. So I spent a bit of time kind of configuring a story idea that I could take from those 4 words, and I'm actually pretty happy with this story. Some of the writing challenges that I've done recently, the stories haven't been the best, but this one has a beginning, middle, and an end, and a plot twist. I managed to go over 1,000 words just by 77, so I think that it's still okay. Just to reiterate, the words that Hannah and I are using are distinct, ruby, broccoli, and bubble. The hazy sun set low beneath the horizon, encasing the world in darkness. For Lainey, this was a normal day. As soon as the sun began to set, she was expected to slip into her bubble to sleep for the night. She exhaled and hung her head. The last rays of orange pierced the sky far above her. As the footsteps sounded at her doorframe, she glanced behind her, her gold eyes shining in the candle's gentle flickering light. Her carer held a plate piled high with broccoli. "Would you like your dinner outside the dome?" That's what she called it. Apparently it made the prospect less frightening. Dome made Lainey think of a suffocating glass lid over her fragile insect-like body, as if she was scooped up from the grass by a grubby-handed boy with a jar to show his friends. She took the bowl and settled into the mouth of the bubble. "Can't I stay out for just 1 more hour?" The distinct sound of sirens blared outside, and her carer shook her head. "Not tonight. They'll be here soon." She handed the broccoli back to her carer. "I'm not hungry." "You must eat something." Lainey's eyes flashed. "I said I'm not hungry." Her carer nodded, taking the plate. "Of course." Lainey slipped into the bubble and cradled her blanket. The sound of her breaths reverberated around her until she felt the gentle tug of sleep pull at her senses. She forced her eyes to stay open. "No gas tonight?" "I'm sorry, dear. I can't risk turning it off." Lainey pushed herself up, sitting, refusing to get comfortable. "Please, I promise I won't do anything." Her carer gave her a sympathetic look. Some would say motherly. Though Lainey did not know who her family was, the idea of family was mundane and ancient in this modern-day world. What would she need them for when she had a carer? Her carer closed and sealed the bubble's door and left the room, not without a glance back. Lainey held herself. She was a grown woman. Why couldn't she make her own decisions? A garbled sob stung the back of her throat and she cursed, smacking a fist against the edge of her prison. She let out a short, vicious laugh. Bubbles don't have edges. The gas swirled through her contents, around her body, and disappeared before her, soaking into her nostrils. She couldn't stop it, even if she wanted to. She lay back, pulling the blankets over herself, and hoping she would suffocate so the damned bubble would finally become her tomb. After all, she couldn't change who she was or what her birth parents had done to her. Addicts had their problems. Who was she to judge? Although maybe she would be able to understand if they hadn't sold her to get their hit. Maybe she would have a sympathetic ear to the horrors they had exposed themselves to. She sighed. These thoughts were moot. No one cared about her plight because they were glad it wasn't them. They gave her looks of concern and touched her hair gingerly at times, but that was all they could offer. Lenny pushed the urge to scream down. No one would hear it anyway. No matter how much she tried to fight the gas, she couldn't. Her carer had left the gas off just once after a night of wine, but she wouldn't do it again. Lenny had reacted poorly, but she was much older now. She could handle herself. She could handle what had broken into her room during the witching hour. She wanted to see the very thing that aimed to kill her, the very thing that wanted her blood because the government had injected her with a life-saving serum, the very thing that she was determined to one day kill so she could live a normal life. But tonight would not be the time. She would fall into a restless, forced sleep and awaken refreshed and depressed to spend another day alone staring at the streets around her from her bedroom window. What kind of life was this? A quiet squeal rang through her thoughts. Lainey sat up, staring into the darkness that had become her bedroom. What was that noise? Had she imagined it in her sleep-thick haze? If so, why was she no longer sleepy? She was, in fact, wide awake. She pushed the blanket off and pressed her face to the glass. Subtle lights shifted over the wall outside her bedroom. She squinted as the shapes moved, twisted and distorted. The light of a candle preceded a tall man dressed in black. His hair was disheveled and dark, his eyes much the same. A smile caressed his lips as he moved toward her. Lainey's mouth dried as she moved from the bubble's face, pressing her back against the pillow. His breath fogged the door and he raised a finger, drawing a key. The bubble magnified Lainey's breath until she was sure she was screaming. Where was her carer? The man wiped the symbol away and looked her in the eye before opening his mouth and drawing his tongue over the seal of the door, crimson trailing behind. Lainey's breath hitched. The man inserted the key and the lock clicked before clattering to the wooden floorboards below. Lainey put her hands up, creating distance as the man stood and inched himself into the cramped space. "Hello, Lainey. I've been looking for you." She stuttered some nonsensical reply and swallowed her heartbeat, which was now inflaming her glands. He reached out and snatched her jaw. My, what pretty eyes you have." She let out a scream, flailing, as the man pushed her aside and sunk his jagged teeth into her collarbone. The sound of his tongue slurping the rushing blood took over her senses, and she gave in to the fate, her arms dropping uselessly to the sides. He dropped her body, wiped his lips, and inched himself back out of the bubble. Hot, ruby red, and the gift of life. Just the way I like my blood served. Lainey forced her eyes to stay open as long as she could, long enough to see the man transition back to a hairless creature with nails skimming the ground. His long forked tongue jutted out, creating elongated shadows on the wall. Why get food delivered when you can hunt it? So that concludes this tag. If you want to know more about me, my life, my books, or my services, please see the description bar below. Sign up to my newsletter for big discounts and news on all of the stuff that I just said. And if you liked what you saw today, remember to subscribe and hit that little bell. I post writing and editing related videos weekly, and I generally upload random scattered vlogs and tags throughout the week. Let me know in the comments if you think that I made a good story from those interesting 4 words, and let me know what you would have done differently. How would you have used those 4 words? You could even use even leave an example in the comments to make a brilliant story. If you would like to see a specific video or topic from me, please let me know below. Thank you for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Bye!